Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. How are you, too, Chris?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. A little better than our Orioles, unfortunately, but you know,
We'll get
got
him
some good
tomorrow.
stuff. Yeah, got some good stuff to talk about still.
Yeah, we got some big news that happened right before we got on here. We're also going to be talking about, of course, the uh, we're going to be talking about Penguin episode 2, but we did have some news that just literally dropped, and then also some news that dropped over the last time we recorded. Um, so yeah, we'll get into it. Um, let's depending on how long we talk about this stuff, uh, this might be 2 episodes. It might not be. We'll see. Um, okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the Bane and Deathstroke stuff first. Let's start with this. So this came out Friday. The 27th Friday. It was Friday that the that they're coming out with a Bane and Deathstroke movie. Hollywood Reporter reported it as if they're the leads. Deadline actually clarified and said that these two people are in it, but the sources stressed that the two characters would be in the movie, but it was unclear if they would be central figures of the project. It's supposed to be written by Matthew Orton, no director. So I know some people were originally thinking maybe this would be just two people that show up in the Brave and the Bold, but that has a director attached. So obviously it's not. So this is either a different uh, movie project or whatever. I've seen some leakers saying that this might actually be Secret Six, which is a villain team with maybe Deathstroke taking Deadshot's spot. That's all we got.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to overreact to this news because there's so little to go off of. I think it's interesting if it was a team up movie. We might have to wait for Batman Brave and the Bold, so filling out Gotham would make a little bit of sense. I fear that it would be a little Sony like with some of those movies. I think it would be a higher quality. Uh, there's not much to go on here. I'd be interesting once we start about talking about casting. Once we get more details, you know, let the fan casting begin, I suppose. But Deathstroke is another thing that pops out of my mind is we haven't heard anything about that Teen Titans movie, and Deathstroke is traditionally a Teen Titans villain.
Different
So
writer though.
yeah, but I wonder if that has anything to do with that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Look, I, let's just say I'm waiting to see. I wouldn't be shocked if it is another villain team up that they're doing. Not I would be shocked if it's just Bane and Deathstroke because that would be I think a very odd mix. So if it's something like Secret Six that has like different villains in it, um, I think that almost like a Suicide Squad, but like a different team that maybe they could lean on that. I think that would be fine. But because I really wonder, like, if it's just Bane and Deathstroke, like, who's actually showing up to this other than hardcore fans, right? I mean, unless if it's really great movie.
Hmm. Yeah, non-Batman related projects that have Batman in it. That's gonna be an interesting test, which is funny because we're talking about one of those tonight. Um, but that's a direct tie-in to the Batman story. So I don't. Again, I'm really trying not to overreact to this news because the takes I've seen on Twitter have been of the overreacting sort.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just how the internet is now, right?
Yeah, I love Bane. Nightfall is one of my favorite stories. Deathstroke is actually really an underrated villain. I thought the Arkham Origins boss fight with him is still one of the coolest things in a video game. So I have some appreciation for both characters. I don't see how either of them are going to work together, especially because they're both very alpha male, their own guy kind of things. I can't see them not butting heads.
Yeah, that's why I think it would work better as a team, like a team dynamic. Because if it's just two people bouncing off each other and they're both very like, I wouldn't say similar, but like you said, they're both like um probably used to being the one that would have the spotlight or in charge, right?
Hmm.
If you have just the two of them going back and forth, I'm not sure. It's like I saw some people trying to say this is them trying to capitalize off Deadpool and Wolverine, but like these are nothing like Deadpool and Wolverine. Like these characters are not as beloved as Deadpool and Wolverine.
And you can't do a
Um,
comedy with Bane and Deathstroke. I can't imagine that. That to me would lose my interest right away. I mean, I don't want to see a comedy with Bane and Deathstroke. If I wanted comedy with Bane, I would just watch the Harley Quinn series.
or Dark Knight Rises, right?
You
Um,
think you were born in the dark?
okay, so let's get to maybe the bigger news. Blew up the group chat,
Yeah,
I
it
think.
did.
But okay, James Gunn just came out and shared this an hour ago. Said over the moon excited to announce the newest DC Studios Warner Brothers Pictures animation greenlit film for theaters, Dynamic Duo. The story of Robin, or should I say Robins, as in Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. The first feature film from the visionary Swaybox, a mix of animation, puppetry, and CGI, a script from the wonderfully talented Matt Aldrich, produced with our partners at Matt Reeves 6 in Idaho. This is something special. It has like a little title card type thing. Now, Deadline put out an article, and this is where I was at first seeing some people run with some stuff that I was like, oh, maybe it's in this article. And then I read the article. I think this came out maybe right after James Gunn announced it, or maybe right before, and then James Gunn decided to announce it. I'm not really sure. But he said, the Deadline article says, here's a really cool project that just got greenlit at DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, Dynamic Duo. It will be mark the first joint project between DC Studios and the Bill Dambsky-led WBPA. That's Warner Brothers Pictures Animation. The Six in Idaho movie, scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans called Swaybox, and that studio's husband and wife creators Arthur Mintz and Teresa Anderson. Mintz will direct this movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, aka the Robins. Note, the storyline here is not connected to Matt Reeves' Batman and the Penguin canon. Swaybox uses a technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI, practical elements of stop motion, and live action real time performance. The result is long form storytelling billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human. DC Studios' James Gunn and Peter Safran, Swayback Studios' Anderson, and Six and Idaho's Reeves are producers on Dynamic Duo. Executive producers include Michael Uslan. I've wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be Dynamic Duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families, is a dream, Reeves said. Mintz, co-founder and co-CEO of Swaybox, is a graduate of Columbia University. He was hired by animation legend Joe Ranft to work in the storyboard department on James and the Giant Peach, and was one of the contributing writers of Moonbot Studios' Lost Ollie, which won multiple Emmys for Netflix. Mintz has directed several award-winning puppet theater productions. Uh, the rest is just going on about Swaybox. The project news comes in the wake of DC Studios' HBO and Max series The Penguin, landing the biggest 4-day audience for a new series on Max in every region globally since The Last of Us in January 2023.
Mm, there's a lot there. I'm
So,
interested.
yeah, go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
So I'm interested. I think it's cool because I like Dick Grayson. And I can usually stand Jason Todd. Ron's more of the Jason Todd guy out of the group, but I I would say that the style is interesting because I think this is our chance to make a big splash with something that seems like it's kind of a new kind of way of doing things. So I'm interested. I want to see a lot more, but it sounds like it's got a lot of big names behind it. It has a lot of experience and backing behind it. So we'll see what happens with it. The artwork is also that we got was also a little interesting too because it was just like you'd have no idea it was about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd from that. So I we'll see. I'm in the I'm not overreacting mode with all out of this news because I tend to have an opinion once I have more information.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna have to do after this is see if I can find some of Sway boxes. Some people are talking about they have a studio reel and it looks really cool. Um, so look, let's get into. I saw a post that immediately said it wasn't in James Gunn's universe and Matt Reeves' universe. The article only says Matt Reeves, but I thought this was a good discussion we were having in the chat, so I wanted to bring it here because I found myself diametrically opposed to the two of you because I am fine if this has no connection to anything. For me, just give me good movies. And if it's something like Into the Spider Verse, which I think a lot of people may have originally been like, why are we getting this? Is it connected to anything? What are we doing? We would have missed out on a really good movie. Two movies. Would have missed out on really good two movies and a third upcoming. So look, if this ends up being part of the DCU, great. If not, I'm still gonna go see it, and I think it'll be fun to have something more thrilling than Super Pets as a theatrical animation for DC
Something kids
characters.
can get into, yeah. It's a great access point for children because I think a lot of times kids don't have a lot of access points into DC. I think Marvel kind of the cheat code with Spider-Man. So, and using Robin as a way to do that, especially because Robin back in the day when he was introduced in the comics was be like, hey, look, kids, here's a kid superhero.
Yeah,
So,
you could be him. Yeah,
yeah, so I think that would be nice to kind of restore that to the Robin lineage. So that is a good point. I'm a little confused on what the rules are for DC Studios, Elseworlds, animation, live action. I feel like it was packaged to us a little more concisely, and not to piggyback off what Ron was saying, but it seems like it's been anything but. And you know, when this stuff comes out, these are the kind of details that I want to know before I know the rest.
yeah. And I guess we'll see on what they do. But it sounds like um, what James Gunn said in his thread was like, I couldn't be more wowed by what Swaybox is doing. That plus Matthew's magnificent script made this an easy let's go. Maybe he will somehow like retrofit that into DC's. I mean, look, if it's a young Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, we know we're on Damian Wayne
Mm-hmm.
in the other, in the DCU. So this could just retroactively fit in there if it doesn't break any canon. Um, I just look. I get it can be confusing, right? Like there's so many projects, but what I would pretty much say about this is like act like it's either Into the Spider Verse, which wasn't connected to anything, or I know people will throw at me. Well, they threw in what Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, uh, in the second one, and now it's connected. But I don't really consider that connected. It's another universe he comes from still. But like think of it as how you think of Harley Quinn or Kite Man or uh, any of those other projects that were started before James took over. We're gonna have some stuff that are not connected. The one thing I remember too is people were asking James Gunn about the DCAU movies, like the DC
Mm-hmm.
movies like Crisis, and then what's coming up next. which are like the Watchmen ones and stuff like that. And he said those are not necessarily, going to be connected, and that I believe he mentioned sometime on there that like some stuff, will continue not being connected. So who knows? I would love for it to be connected because I do think it'd be cool to kind of get, if we're not going to do like doing flashback movies as animated movies,
That would be
could
a
be
cool
cool.
thing. I don't think anybody's ever done anything like that. That would be interesting. I also like the idea because we were worried about skipping the Robins and going all the way to Damien. And, to get the first two Robins in there, and, that does leave room for Tim Drake, though. If you're going to get rid of a Robin, I think he'd probably be the one that didn't get included. Like, if you're like, oh, there's too many Robins, which one are we going to get rid of? Well, you're not going to get rid
Or
of Dick.
is he Teen Titans Robin? And
Dude,
we get all three,
get our
and we get
cake and
like
eat it
all
too.
three before Damien. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's possible.
So yeah, if they tied it in a creative way, I'm all for it. Also with Matt Reeves, you're like, well, maybe it's connected to the Batman, but it can't be. So it's
Well, and they said it's not. And what I would say is, I think he's just the Batman guy. I think anything being produced Batman,
hmm
Matt Reeves has say in. We see it with Caped Crusader, right?
yeah.
Like he's part of Caped Crusader. It has nothing to do with the Batman.
And you
And
can't blame James Gunn for that because who has a better Batman mind than Matt Reeves? I
well, that's
honestly,
what I wonder. I wonder if it is that, or if it's
mhm.
like part of his contract with WB. That
Oh
he has
yeah,
some sort of say in all of Batman stuff.
I
Maybe that's what's taking
yeah.
uh Batman and Robin so long to get going.
Well,
Brave and the Bold.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Matt Reeves ended up directing that too at some point. Oh, I would not be horribly shocked. Now, would it be surprising out of left field a little bit? But he might just be their Batman guy. I actually I like that theory.
Yeah, it could be fun. Could be fun. We'll keep an eye on all of this stuff as we go through the recording too, I guess, in case if James Gunn answers a
Yeah,
thread or something. But so far he has not answered questions about that. He definitely just said, somebody saying, just saw the studio reel and dude, this is so cool. And he was like, right, like we haven't seen um him respond to that. But we're gonna delay that a bit. There was a rumor of a Mr. Freeze movie
I
that
I
was in development.
I called BS on that one just about right away.
And that was by Production List or Production Weekly, which of course, I know people use it to find jobs and stuff, but I swear I read or saw somewhere somebody said that people within can, or people that are subbed can submit production stuff, and like it's listed Mr. Freeze. James Gunn has come out and said that is not happening. He said it sounds like a cool idea is what he said or whatever. And he's like, but that's not happening.
I feel like he'd say
It's
that
not a
about
bad
any character.
idea. He said it's not a bad idea, so I wouldn't say never, but no, there's no truth to it at all.
Yeah, I feel like James Gunn would say that about any character. Like he's a fan. He likes to like if you guys want it, he'll be like, yeah, well maybe I can do it at some point. I feel like he wants to get all this stuff done. One of the things with James Gunn that I think is awesome is he's a fan, and we keep talking about, oh no, we need content. We're waiting for content. The waiting's going to be hard. Well, I'm wondering if a lot of this is just to keep us satiated while we get to the good stuff. We're gonna have some voids in there, some valleys of production, and I think he might just be saying yes to projects that go along with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're look, he's looking at it like a studio head at this point. I know some people probably just want him to focus on the DCU, but I mean, like, if there's a good script, I'm sure he's going to say, "Hey, that sounds cool." I
And
mean,
he probably gets 15 scripts a day, if we're being honest. He probably gets random people just sending him stuff on the regular basis. And then he, like, maybe even established people in the field are just sending him stuff like, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? I mean, this guy has nonstop questions asked at him no matter what platform he's on.
yeah. Also, the guy who is writing the dynamic duo, by the way, just to go back to that, is the guy who wrote Coco. the Disney Pixar movie,
Ooh,
which was really great. So, I mean, it is really
that's
good.
interesting to me. That that's some catchy stuff there. So okay.
But yeah, so that's our little news catch up. Was there any other big stories we forgot before we get into the Penguin?
I mean, I think we got it all. This time next week we'll be getting ready for Superman and Lois.
Yeah, so you'll get 2 episodes in your feed. That'll be Penguin episode 3 coverage and Superman and Lois coverage. We'll just record them at the same time, and I'll just
Mm-hmm.
split them in case if you're not watching one of those shows. This will be split. We went 20 minutes. I think that's a good enough time to put this as just a little news catch
Yeah,
up,
this is a little mini episode.
little mini episode. But our main coverage this week is the Penguin episode 2. So if you haven't watched that, go watch the Penguin. It's been great. And then come back and click the next video or the next episode on your podcatcher, and we'll see you over on that side.